Good morning, this is Kris Shoemaker, also known as Yehudah ben Shomeyr, and you're listening to Coffee with Kris, the time of the day where we share a cup of coffee and share a bit of the Word of God. This is our fourth Sidra, our fourth Aliyah of the Torah portion of Tetze, which means when you go out. And today we are in Deuteronomy chapter 23, verses 8 through 24, but I'm just going to hone in on verse 19, which reads, "You are not to bring in the fee of a prostitute." Some translations say a cult prostitute, or in other words, a priest or priestess which worshiped their god in a sexual way, therefore a pagan religion. You are not to bring in the money of a pagan religion or the wages of a dog, which the wages of a dog is symbolic of people that are willfully and knowingly living outside of the will of God, the Word of God, and the commandments of God. You are not to bring in the fee of a prostitute or the wages of a dog into the house of Adonai. In other words, you're not to profit from their money. You're not to say, God needs this money and I'm going to use this dirty money in order to, build the sanctuary or maintain or upkeep the tabernacle or use it for missions or whatever, because it's dirty money. It's blood money. It's just the same where when Judas hung himself and he threw the money that he received by betraying Messiah Yeshua, and the Pharisees are like, well, we can't use this money for the temple. It's blood money. It's the cost of somebody's life. So the best we can do is use it to buy a field to where we can bury foreigners in. And so, you don't use dirty money. You don't use blood money. You don't use mob money. When I read this verse, you are not to bring in the fee of a prostitute or the wages of a dog into the house of Adonai your God for any vow, for both of these are detestable. It's an abomination to Adonai your God. This always reminds me of those mobster movies, whether it's the Italian mob or the Irish mob or what have you. They seem to all be somehow connected to the Catholic Church, and they're big donors to the church that they go to. Why? Because they always want the blessing of the priest. They always want to feel and believe and think that God is on their side, even though they're doing things that totally contradict the Word of God. And so these are the movies that come to my mind when I read this verse. So we are not to justify, even though it may be a big amount of money, it may be a big favor, or maybe a big perk, we're not to accept these things if there's strings attached, because when the mob gives money to the church, that there's strings attached. They just don't give money to the church freely. They'll expect some sort of favor from the church or the priest in the future. So whenever you receive money from questionable places or money or gifts or goods that are questionable, it may be a hot item, it may be stolen, what have you, there's always strings attached. If not monetarily and physically, there's always spiritually strings attached. And you don't want no part of that, because the mob or the demonic realm, they always want their pound of flesh. Nothing is ever given for free in those realms or those types of situations. So we must be held accountable and always know where our income is coming from, and knowing that things are on the level and above board. And so that maintains the integrity not only of ourselves personally, but of the faith that we represent. How would it look if people knew we were taking bribes or taking dirty money or taking stolen goods or what have you? It wouldn't be a good witness at all. So the Lord's saying, as an individual, as a religious institution, stay far away from these things, because these are abominable to me. Because if you accept these goods and these monies, it's as if you're participating in the sins of the one who donated such goods and money. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Go out there and have a great day. Shalom and God bless.